All right, good afternoon, everyone. I will give you a little bit a short summary on the Lunar Environment Monitoring Station for Artemis 3. This is obviously, I'm one of the team members of LEMS. I'm the principal investigator, but the LEMS team include several co-Is. All the list is here, but also expands to a really amazing technical team from several institutions that I will cite toward the end. Next slide, please. So LEMS for Artemis 3 or LEMS A3 or just LEMS for short is an instrument suite that will be developed by the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, University of Maryland, College Park, Goddard, University of Arizona, and Washington University in order to be delivered and deployed by the Artemis 3 astronauts on the surface of the moon. Our instrument will be built to collect continuous long-term seismic measurements at the Artemis 3 landing site. These data will be used to constrain the local crustal and mantle structure of the South Polar region and contribute to characterize globally the internal structure of the moon. The instrument itself is a fully autonomous package designed to operate beyond the duration of the Artemis 3 EVA phase and will be can be considered as a long-lived geophysical station. By enabling by allowing us to monitor seismicity over the long term, LEMS will also allow us to characterize seismic hazards to future sustained human exploration missions to the lunar South Pole. And the same longevity makes it also possible for the station to possibly serve as the first node in a global network of geophysical or future geophysical instruments. Next. So here you're looking at our current best concept of what the LEMS instrument will look like. The LEMS station itself is composed of three elements. You have the two size sensors, which are a 3-axis short period seismometer and a 3-axis very broadband seismometer, and the instrument suite platform, which is what we commonly call the bus, which provides power, thermal, and communication resources to these seismometers. The seismometers themselves will be buried by the astronauts, and after their deployments, burial, and activation, the station will not require any in situ support for the Artemis 3 crew or the Artemis 3 human landing system. All communication to the station will occur via Deep Space Network ground stations. The early communications will allow us to start the commissioning sequence and science operation. And after that, the station will continue operation for its target 2 years longevity goal, well after the Artemis 3 crew has departed. The instrument itself has no consumables, so the lifetime is only limited by the reliability of its design. There is no reason for it to stop after a couple of years, as long as all its subcomponents are functioning properly. Next. So a little bit of overview on our seismometer sensors. These are seismometer sensors developed for many years by University of Arizona. The SP and the VBB both are packaged inside seismic sounds and connected to the station via with the 9-meter long cables. These cables are preloaded in canisters, so it's self-contained within the station. The SP seismometer will be inserted in one of the 40 to 50 centimeter deep boreholes that will be left from extracting core samples. And the VBB seismometer will be buried flat on its base in a trench similar to what the Apollo astronauts regularly excavated during their EVAs. And here's a picture from Apollo 15, actually from Apollo 17. The burial of the seismometer achieved two purposes. Number one, it provides us a good thermal insulation and thermal stability for these seismometers. But also it lessens the effect of the near surface scattering and of seismic noise. Next. In summary, we're obviously very excited to embark on this endeavor as part of the first wave of Artemis deployed instruments. We are also cognizant of the responsibility we have to deliver high quality science to the larger lunar and planetary community. In the next few years, the LEMS team will be not only focusing on developing the hardware, but we're also planning to engage the larger lunar community early to make sure that we take into consideration any inputs on how to further optimize surface operations and data collection and dissemination to the larger community. And I think that's all. Next slide. Just to kind of remind you the main institutions that are contributing part of this instrument.
Great.
And if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mehdi. Yeah, we'll have time for Q&A later, but thank you for your time today, Mehdi. Appreciate it. And now we're going to transition back to our PDFs, and Dr. Christine Escobar will talk to us about the lunar effects on agricultural flora, the wonderful acronym of LEAF.
Thanks, Noah. I'm Christine Escobar from Space Lab Technologies. We're in Boulder, Colorado, and we are very excited to introduce you to our Artemis 3 deployed instrument called LEAF, which stands again for Lunar Effects on Agricultural Flora. So first, I'd like to explain why we care about plants in space. Next slide, please. Plants provide many benefits to humans inhabiting a spacecraft or a surface habitat for long durations. While packaged food stores have a limited shelf life, losing quality over time, plants can provide a regenerable, nutritious food source. They turn carbon dioxide into oxygen, they purify wastewater, while they make us happy and they reduce our stress. Plants can also produce many products that we use in our daily lives, like medicine, fuel, and clothing. And as humans travel further from Earth, plants can help us to reuse and recycle what we consume rather than carrying it all with us and carrying all of our supplies and then throwing away the waste. So human nutrition and life support provided by plants will enable a sustained, long-duration human exploration of the moon and beyond. And that's why it's so important that we understand the space environment effects on crop physiology and growth. Next slide. So in space, we need all the same things to grow a plant. You need water, carbon dioxide, minerals, nutrients, light. But there's some complications. You're extremely limited by how much mass you can carry, the available volume and power. Microgravity and reduced gravity complicates water transport, air mixing, and root aeration, and it can confuse the plant's gravitropic responses. You have high radiation, reduced pressures, elevated carbon dioxide, and high acceleration loads. And these things can all physiologically stress plants and the hardware that's supporting them. So for lunar surface exploration in particular, we'll need to understand and mitigate the effects of partial gravity and space radiation on all aspects of plant function and their potential for sustained off-planet propagation. Next slide. So the primary goal of LEAF is to understand the effects of that lunar surface environment on what we call model spacecrafts. Our objectives are to compare the observable traits or phenotypes of crops grown in both lunar and Earth environments, and then identify biomolecular drivers of those physiological changes. We're going to use cameras to observe seed germination, seedling growth, and seedling morphology, their size, their orientation, their color. And with onboard gas sensors, we'll even be able to observe their net photosynthesis and respiration rates. And then what's really exciting is that by sending plant samples back to Earth when the Artemis 3 crew, with the Artemis 3 crew, we'll then be able to investigate the biochemical mechanisms that the plants use to survive and thrive in that environment. This will tell us how elevated radiation and partial gravity on the moon affects the growth, the photosynthetic productivity, and even the nutritional quality of our winter crops. And it will illuminate potential genetic traits that could make a crop more resilient to this environment. So in essence, we consider LEAF to be a foundational experiment to help us predict spacecraft effectiveness as food and life support components for sustained lunar exploration. So LEAF is a plant growth chamber with an isolated sealed atmosphere. It protects the plants from lunar sunlight, from radiation, and the vacuum of space, and it provides them with water, nutrients, light, and CO2, and a comfortable climate for their growth. There will be a flight unit on the moon and a ground analog unit running at Kennedy Space Center. And during launch and lunar transit, the seeds will remain dormant. And once the crew places LEAF on the lunar surface, they'll then initiate the experiment by powering it on and hydrating the seeds. And then after 3 to 5 days, the seeds will germinate and begin to grow. And the crew can then collect a portion of those seedlings prior to departing for their return journey to Earth. And some plants will stay behind in the payload to keep growing. LEAF will then continue to monitor the plant's growth in the environment until there's no longer enough sunlight for solar power. And then meanwhile, our LEAF science team will analyze the plant samples, return to Earth by the Artemis 3 crew. Our LEAF team includes a stellar group of space biologists and engineers that I am really lucky to be working with from Space Lab, from NASA Kennedy Space Center, the University of Colorado, Purdue University, as well as our partners at the Australian Plants for Space Consortium from University of Adelaide and La Trobe University. And so we're all so excited for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Oh, I hadn't been advancing the slides. That's okay. We can just go to the end. There we go.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Christine. And now I'd like to turn the proverbial ball over to Hideaki, who's going to talk to us about the Lunar Dielectric Analyzer. And thank you for getting up early to support this LSSW. It's, as always, great to see you on screen. Take it away.
All right, thank you now. Hi, my name is Hideaki Miyamoto from University of Tokyo. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. We are developing the LDA, Lunar Dielectric Analyzer, as one of the deploy instrument. Our team are listed below. I'm the PI. Makito Kobayashi is the deputy PI, both scientists. A few other scientists are involved from different universities, such as University of Tohoku, University of Osaka, University of Arizona, University of Adelaide. We have many engineering members as well, including the team of LEV-1 that recently succeeded in surviving the lunar night as a part of the SLIM mission earlier this year. Next slide, please. Okay, we are very much interested in lunar volatiles, especially H2O. So I borrowed the top left figure developed by folks at Caltech, which shows the current understanding of the origin and possible processes associated with lunar volatile. I just wanted to remind you that volatiles can migrate on the lunar surface before being trapped by the cold traps. We know for sure that there was some water on the moon, but it may be in very small amounts now. On the other hand, the amount may not be that small, given the result of lens, M-cubes, Diviner, and of course L-cross observations. In the near future, Viper and Prime 1 will drill into the surface of the lunar egoist, so we can understand whether or not water actually exists. LUPEX, which is the JAXA and the ISRO mission, will also try to drill the surface. Then later on, we may want to know where we can find the highest concentration. Next slide, please. So as a first step, we should look at the shallow subsurface because the pumping effect that water vapor is likely to be concentrated in the area that has the lowest temperature even during the daytime. This is theoretically suggested to be 10 to 30 centimeters, as shown in the upper left figure, which I borrowed from Page et al. 2010. But even at such a shallow depth, the subsurface is difficult to observe remotely. The upper right figure shows the frequency of the electromagnetic wave and the names of the instruments of previous missions. The yellow circle is instrument using the microwave band, especially used by mini RF and mini SAR. They obtained a significant important observation data, which is useful for understanding the subsurface states, including the electric constant, but delivery of that value is very, very model dependent. So we really need to calibrate the model with the ground truth. Next, please. So the LDA will measure the electricity or permittivity of the surface for the first time. You may think that we can measure it by using a pore sample. Yes, we can. In fact, we are doing by ourselves too. But we can only do this under terrestrial gravity. So if we change the packing density, the bulk permittivity can be completely different. That's why we need to measure in situ. Then the value will be a good reference to previous electromagnetic observations. It will be a good reference for the ground penetrating radar in the future. Also, it is good for the Tsukimi mission, which is an orbital project to map the electricity. So why we care about the electricity? Because we don't know what form the water ice might take. Even if it is completely dry, we do not know the packing density of the surface. So the electricity or permittivity is a robust parameter to describe the state of the ground in this situation. Next, please. Okay, so we'd like to ask astronaut to place the LDA close to the shadow. The landing site of Artemis 3 will be at the high latitude, so the shadow moves quickly. This allows the LDA to measure the permittivity in both sunlight and shadow at completely different temperatures. This is important because our laboratory experiments show that the permittivity of rock depends on temperature, but not of ice. So if there is frost or subsurface ice, we hope to be able to detect it by measuring the permittivity at different temperature. Thank you very much for your time.